used by the political parties in the Johannesburg Council for, well, I suppose, horse trading, as the election of a new mayor is now expected to take place. Newzroom Afrika understands that the ANC-EFF coalition is seeking to install another mayor from Al Jamaa following the resignation of Thapelo Amad last week. Amad resigned just hours before a motion of no confidence against him was set to be heard. At the same time, now, we understand the DA deciding to go it alone and will field their own candidate, the former mayor, Mpho. A Comes Action essay, which remains in the coalition, is expected to field its Gauteng leader, Ngcobo, to become mayor. Our senior political reporter, Ziyanda Ngcobo, at the council chambers this afternoon. Ziyanda, good afternoon to you. 3 hours is a long time in Joburg politics.
Absolutely, and you can hear the drums going on. It means the councillors are being rallied to make their way back into the chamber. But a lot has happened in the last 3 hours. My sources tell me, Stephen, that negotiations, I should say, almost crumbled. The PA's Gaten McKenzie threatening to vote with the DA's Mpho if a Johannesburg mayor is not elected today. That candidate being Al Jamaa's Thapelo Amad being the candidate that has been fielded. The complication here, Stephen, is that we understand that the ANC-NEC has rejected the name of Thapelo Amad, and that there was talk of now the AIC's Margaret versus the COPE's Colleen Makubela, who you'll know is the Speaker of this council. And it would seem that it's that politics of local dynamics versus what national ones playing itself out here again. And so we know that even the EFF at some stage, we understand, was also threatening to vote with the DA's candidate, of course, that being Mpho if then the name of Thapelo was not settled on. So we're expecting him to emerge as the mayor here this afternoon. And this is, of course, after that 3-hour caucus, the Johannesburg caucus not really united, which is why then when the ANC called for a 3-hour caucus break, we weren't shocked, because we understand that from the conversations that ended at around 2 a.m. this morning, a name still hadn't been decided on. But of course you'll know, Stephen, that this is all dependent on the politics of the Johannesburg region vis-a-vis what National says. And you'll know that at the recent ANC-NEC meeting, there was a discussion about the fact that this issue of kingmakers, such as what we're seeing in Johannesburg with the Patriotic Alliance being the kingmaker within that ANC-EFF coalition, the ANC is saying that the party that gets the most votes should be the one to lead in these councils. But you'll know that the reason why the ANC or the EFF the reason why either of those parties are not fielding their own candidates is because of the drama that we saw in Ekurhuleni. So in order to resolve that mistrust, after Mzwandile Masina tried to also rally his own caucus in Ekurhuleni at the time to vote for a different candidate to what the province had decided upon, both parties agreed that none of them will field candidates and will actually propose candidates from the minority parties, which is why then we anticipate for Al Jamaa again to have a mayor of their own being elected this afternoon.
Ziyanda, my apologies. We're still definitely going to have a quorum. Is there going to be any problems around that?
I didn't quite get you there, Stephen, but we do understand that the mayor is going to be elected, and also an announcement of the MMCs is going to take place later on this evening. We heard earlier on from Mzi Khumalo, who's the Cooperative Governance MEC in Gauteng, talking about what the legislation states when it comes to the election of officials, saying that there's a 14-day period from the time, of course, that Thapelo Amad had resigned last week, within which the council needs to elect a new mayor, and if they fail to do that within 14 days, there's still another 7 days. So let's listen to what he had to say earlier on.
The frequency of motion of no confidence is a source of concern to us. If you look at the standing rules of municipalities as it stands now, there is an attempt to regulate them, but it will say you can do it after 6 months and so on. And so we're saying maybe time has come that we must not talk about months, but we should talk about years. How many times in a particular year that you can. But also using the term of office, the 5-year term that councillors are elected as a benchmark to say maybe you can have those twice or thrice in that, and then you regulate them properly. But I think the country is agreeing that we've got to regulate coalition government.
So, Stephen, as we were just listening to that, right, I took a turn around and I can see that neither the ANC or the EFF's councillors have returned to the council chambers, perhaps still a finalization of the names. But I know that as of 1:30 this afternoon, the name that they decided upon was still Thapelo Amad of the Al-Jama party. Once they return, we anticipate then, as I've mentioned, that he will be elected as the new mayor. One thing's for sure, all the parties are agreeing that today must not end without a new City of Johannesburg mayor being elected. But of course, on the other side, we have Action SA, which is working with the IFP, the UIM, as well as other parties, saying that they'll be fielding Fundi Ngobeni. Earlier on, we spoke to Michael Beaumont, who said they tried to also include the DA in this, and they decided to go it alone. They decided that they're still going to field Mpho Phalatse yet again for a third time. So it's all going to boil down to the numbers yet again, Stephen Curtis.
Ziyanda Ngcobo, thank you very much indeed. Well, more to come, of course, from the city of Joburg, watching that very, very closely. 3 hours is a long time. What will the next few minutes bring us?